Thank you very much. I too am very interested to see what I'll say. At the staff farewell that the staff had for me last week, they said some very kind and sweet and good, generous things. My brother was there for the occasion, and he got up at one point and he said that all the things that he had heard staff say about me, I learned at home before I was 6 years old. And in so many ways, I think he is right. Certainly, I owe a huge debt of gratitude to my home, my parents, my father, my mother, and the farm on which I grew up for 20 years, and the gentle, generous, simple, dedicated life that my parents demonstrated for me. I remember a traveling evangelist who came through our church, and my dad took us children to hear him. And this traveling evangelist met my dad, who was a very devout church person, met him in the foyer and shook his hand and said, "Mr. Suderman, are you saved?" And my dad was taken back for just a moment, and he said, "I think perhaps you should ask my neighbors that." That has impacted my life significantly, that answer. I was only 8 or 9 years old, but I remember that very, very well. I'd like to take the opportunity to reminisce at least a little bit, if you allow me. I did grow up on a farm in southern Manitoba. I spent the first 20 years of my life as a farmer, subsistence farmer, I should add. I started my career as a teacher when I was 19 years of age, and I had a very inauspicious start because I closed 3 schools in 2 years. Those were the days when there was what we call consolidation. Schools were being consolidated in rural Manitoba, and so the first school closed after the year that I was there, and then the second school closed after the year I was there, and then the third school closed before I started. And that second school, I sometimes still have guilt pangs about that second year, because I only had 7 students. That was a great, great year. Basically what we did was play hockey and baseball. I'm always so glad, at least I think there are none of those folks here. It was just a great year. I don't think we learned anything. It's a good year. It was mentioned 42 years of working with and for and through and in, or connected to the church. That is correct. That was 1968. And I do want to give a word of tribute to Bill Kruger, who's right here. He was the principal of Westgate at that time, Winnipeg, and he asked me in and asked that I would come and teach history and geography. And he was ready to give me a job on the spot. And he didn't know me. He never interviewed me. He didn't ask for a resume. He had no committees, I don't think. I don't even know if he had a board. But he was simply ready to give me a job. And I'm not, I'm not even sure that he knew that I was a Christian or not. I assume that he knew that. I don't think I was a very good one. And that's where my connection to the work of the church really started. I had not gone to church schools. I had not gone to the high school or CNBC or anything of that nature. And he just inserted me into this context. And for the first time, I met people who had actually gone to CNBC and who had gone to seminary. And we had huge discussions in the staff room, and that was like a master's degree in theology and Bible and ethics and everything else right there. And of course, Bill never said a word. He was always listening. And then from there on, I was then encouraged to go to AMBS, which was very formative years with the professors and the students that were there at the time. And then from there to Rossiter Junior College, which were a huge learning curve for me, residential school, and it was a good time. Some of those people are here, including Karen Martin Zimmerly and others that were here at this time to get to know our churches and our people. And then after that, I got more closely connected in terms of the staff position with Mennonite Church Canada, or what at the time was the Conference of Mennonites in Canada. And so the last 14 years have been connected to that. So that's a little bit of a background to the connection with the church in Latin America, in Canada, and the United States, with our institutions, with our schools, with MCC. I didn't mention a significant connection we made with Cuba through MCC, which has continued to this very day. And it's been very rich, and I am very grateful to the church, to the people who have had trust and confidence in me, and to God. Just a few words of reflection. What the board actually asked for was not personal reflections like this. What they actually asked for is what they call the State of the Union. And my son was asking me if I was going to march in from the back and shake everybody's hand. So I won't do much of that, but allow me to make a few comments about some State of the Union kind of ideas, present, and what I can see as the future. It may sound counterintuitive to you, but when I think of these 42 years, 1968 till 2010, I think the church, Mennonite Church in Canada, is much stronger now than it was when I was a teenager. Sometimes we don't think that. Sometimes we think the church has gone downhill, or it's going to pot, or it's going declining. I don't think so. I think in those things that are in some way measurable, there are a lot of things that aren't measurable, but in those things that are somewhat measurable, I think the church is much stronger today than it was when I was younger.